need to shoot this man 20 times? I mean, were you trying to kill him for the next lifetime? Did you fear that he had a grenade on him? You know, the New York Times recently, and shout out to Kid Fury and Crystal for talking about this, but the New York Times recently ran a story on the the psychopath from the Florida school shooting, the most recent Florida school shooting. In the article, they referred to this man as a quiet kid who played video games and, just liked guns. And he was just a wholesome kid who the levees broke. That wholesome kid is responsible for killing multiple people, right? And he still managed to make it to jail in one piece. Stephon Clark was in his grandmother's backyard and couldn't make it inside the house in one piece. I think that we are beyond the point of conversation where we can kind of have a meeting of the minds to try to figure out where did we go wrong and how we can fix it. I strongly believe that, this is not happenstance. This is all part of a calculated, sinister act to desensitize us from those acts of violence where Black men and women and children are being slaughtered, and we are still kind of saying, oh, well, we feared for our lives. Well, maybe you're in the wrong fucking profession. Now, listen, I know a lot of really great police officers, some of whom don't even want to be called cops because of the negative connotation. So fine. I know some great police officers, and, shout out to Meek Mill, who should be getting out any day now because of police officers who are like other humans and sometimes can be deceptive and sometimes can be liars and sometimes can be racists. You're just human. That happens. So because those cops are wanted on corruption, more than likely Meek Mill's case will be dismissed and he should be being released any time now. I think that we have to really be open to making sure that we are getting the right news and we know what's going on, and that we are not becoming desensitized by always hearing about these murders. We're to the point that it's like you hear that another Black person has been killed, slaughtered by the police, and now it no longer causes you to shudder. Because it happens all the time. So now you're basically mentally just trying to dissociate yourself, because if you think about it really, you may never leave your house. You may never leave your house. So, really, I just want us to all be mindful of what's going on out there. Protect yourselves. If you have kids, you may want to talk to them about interaction with police. You yourself may want to know what your rights are and really arm yourself with the knowledge, because honestly, the idea is that you will not know what to do and you will panic or whatever the case is. And in some cases, you just won't be able to get around it. And that is the entire sad ass fact, is that in some cases, you just won't be able to run. But I think that if you educate yourself even about your local police department, know who they are. Know who they are. Know who is the beat in your neighborhood. Who is it? Because honestly, they work for you. Not the other way around. They work for you. If not for you paying your taxes and busting your ass and, dropping your car in every nook and crater in the fucking street, them niggas couldn't get paid. Streets still looking like shit. Garbage still everywhere. Fucking like school still fucked. But they get their money though. So I implore you guys to just stay in the know and rest in peace to Stephon Clark. I know. Well, listen, I gotta tell you. If I don't tell you what's going on, who's gonna tell you? Oh, so we was talking earlier about talk to me nice or whatever. Pull up to the table. Come on. Just pull up. Listen, right? So, like I told you, your girl was having a week. I just felt like I couldn't mentally get out of my own way. And I realized that there was a lot of crazy affirmations that I had been telling myself, just kind of the redundancy of messaging that I had been telling myself, that if life doesn't match God's promise, then that means that like everything is bad, and that starts to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Oh my God, nothing ever works. Everything is all bad, and literally everything will be bad. So it led me to thinking, all right, so everybody knows that there are positive affirmations, right? But there are also negative affirmations. Now, just so we're on the same page, an affirmation is a statement said with confidence about a perceived truth and why those truths work. Because affirmations have the ability to program your mind into believing a state or a concept, then you have to know that affirmations kind of can lead you down a path of either self-fulfilling prophecy where you're feeling great about yourself, or it could be complete negative and you're just basically constantly ribbing yourself and reinforcing negative affirmations that you've always told yourself. So then I thought to myself, all right, so here we are on this mindful journey. And shout out to Mark My Style. I live for you, okay? And it was a message that I had received from a friend, my friend Vince, again, shout out to you, that made me realize that it is not necessarily just the messaging that I receive from other people, but the messaging that I give myself about myself that matters. And I believe that it was just a message that I had probably read where, he mentioned something about the podcast and just said some nice things to me. And I thought to myself, what if all the positive affirmations that people had given to you or people had said about you, what if you believed them as hard as you believed the negative ones? Right. Isn't that wild? Why is it so easy for us to remember all the negative shit, but we can't remember the positive shit? Well, that kind of led me to believe like there's got to be ways where you can make affirmation work, right? So what I want to share with you guys today is 5 steps to make affirmations work for you. All right? So think about it this way. There's positive affirmations and then there's negative ones, right? So for example, if you were constantly used to hearing that you were fat, right? Or that you were clumsy, those kind of messages can stay in your conscious or unconscious mind. And then what happens is that once you affirm that in your mind, you then also realize that or you may not realize it, but you then start to affirm it in your actions. So, for instance, fear of failure. By overestimating the risks that we take, on a particular project or a particular goal or a vision that we might have for ourselves. So when we overestimate the risks that we're taking, we're imagining that the worst possible scenario would happen. Now, that's all because of negative affirmations. So then what tends to happen after that is there is a fear that psychologists say is closely related to emotional and or physical abandonment when it comes to fear of failure, right? You basically get to the point where the picture is so bleak that we fail before we even try. We avoid opportunities for success, which means we've already failed, thereby confirming that success is just not for us. Now, they say that if you relate that back to any abandonment issues, physical or emotional, that you may have in your past, it's almost the same kind of self-fulfilling prophecy where you say to yourself, I'm not even going to try because I already know that it's not going to work. It just would never work for me. I'm not meant to be in love. I'm not meant to be healthy. I'm not meant to be happy. I'm not meant to be in a functioning relationship. All these messages that we tell ourselves so that we can basically confirm what we already feel about ourselves. So the reason that affirmations sometimes don't work is because we spend so much time affirming the negative that the positive just doesn't have any muscle. Like the positive just doesn't have any muscle. You have to know that, and I tell this to people that I know all the time. It is inherent for me to be negative. I'm a pessimist by nature. So positivity is not my strong suit, and I consider it a muscle that I have to work at. And the moment I stop working at it and I let my ego, edging God out is what we called it, and I let my ego get in the way and I convince myself that I don't need to work on it anymore because I got this. That is the very exact moment that I get weak and I get right back to the negative. So one of the things I realized is I gotta not get too cocky with it. Just because I have a good day or a good week doesn't mean that you have to stop working at the positive. I have to constantly be in a space. And I think that that's why it's also very necessary for you to surround yourself with people who are equally yoked with you spiritually and emotionally and even goal-wise. Because I think that it is important for you to, A, have an accountability partner, and B, in those moments that you're weak, you can feed off of the frequency of others and hopefully kind of muster up a more positive vibration. So, all right, here's a group activity, right? I'm going to go over the 5 steps that you need to use and I need to use to make affirmations work. Now, step 1. Make a list of what you've always thought of yourself from the negative standpoint. So you can even include criticisms that other people have said about you. Note the common themes and the effects on your physical body. So when you start to okay, for instance, I can say that one of the negatives that I've always thought about myself is that that somehow I would be at a disadvantage, or I just wasn't capable of being in a working relationship. And that was just kind of a message that I had given myself. And there are things that you tend to say about yourself that even when you think it, you can almost feel the physical anguish in some sort of part of your body, right? So part of step 1 is not only making the list, but it's also kind of listening to your body. And when you talk about your inability to love, do you feel it in your heart? When you talk about the fact that, you know what, I have always thought that, like, my eyes were too big and you just don't even like to look at yourself. Like, really think about the physical